Hi everybody and welcome back. NYthespirit.com video channel keeps bringing you the best interviews anywhere in the world. And today, I have one of the best guests anywhere in the world. I've known her since she was 12 and I was 11.
You liar!
Hello. Please welcome Lorraine Segato. Well, I think
so
it was.
sweet.
I think you were. I was 11 and you were 12.
We were definitely very, very young.
You'll notice I was younger than you. I doubt that, but anyway, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here with you.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. I've loved you forever.
Me too. You big part of my my career, sir.
Well, gee whiz. I can't be humble. I'm sorry. I don't know how I forgot years ago. So tell me, what was going on before Mamma Kia 2?
Oh, before Mamma Kia 2.
Yes.
Well, I had just come out of film school, and I had just moved to Toronto, and I had always wanted, you know, I mean, I was 11 years old when I knew I wanted to be a singer or a songwriter.
Yes.
But I went to film school and studied film so that I would have an additional career in case this one didn't work out. And so I was moving here, and then I was trying to figure out how am I going to, you know, make my way. I did a couple of solo gigs, and then kind of quite by accident ended up in Mamma Kia because they'd lost their lead singer, and I went in for the audition.
And
they reluctantly accepted me. It was a kind of a funny story. They wanted to play a women's music festival, and the person who was the producer was in town, and they said, okay, we're going to come by and see your rehearsals, you know, like who you're trying to find for a lead singer. And the producer happened to be there when I was did my audition, and she said to the band, well, yeah, you can play the festival if you take her as a singer.
oh, isn't that
And
cool?
that's kind of crazy because I, you know, have barely just picked up, I went from acoustic to an electric guitar. So, yeah,
Wow.
it was crazy, a really crazy transition all at once.
But what a nice compliment.
It was a great, you know, I was so raw then. I wasn't really singing. I was kind of screaming, but with great charisma, I'm sure.
Well, you see, Mamma Kia won the Greater Ontario Talent Search at CFNY, isn't they?
That's right. In fact, it was because of CFNY that we had our very first and only EP.
Is that true?
It's so true because what we won, I think, enough money. I think it was a couple $1,000 to produce an EP. We went to Grant Ave Studio, and that was where I met Danny Lanois for the first time.
Oh,
I am
cool.
from Hamilton, so it was interesting to go back.
And now, when you make the move from Mama to Parachute,
Right.
tell me about that.
Okay, that was a transitional move as well. So Mamma Kia 2 was kind of, you know, there was some stuff going on in the band, so the questions were, are we going to continue to perform? And I had brought Billy Bryans into Mamma Kia 2.
And how did you know him?
I met Billy because I was editing a film here for the Time Twins, you know, a series of their songs, and they introduced me to Billy, and Billy and the Time Twins actually introduced Brian Eno to Danny Lanois.
Good. Is that a true story?
Yeah, it's a true story.
Wow.
So that whole group, I met Billy, and Billy was the guy who said to me, take off that acoustic guitar here, and he gave me his telly, you know, and he said, now play your song, you know, and so that's how I met Billy. So we were buddies at the time, and Mamma Kia was looking for a drummer, but there were not that many women drummers around. So Billy, being the feminist, was able to came in to Mamma Kia. And then out of Mamma Kia, we did an experiment, like a dub funk group with Mojaw from Truce and Rights and Terry Wilkins, who used to play in Carol Pope's band, Rough Trade, called V.
Yeah.
And V was like this huge underground culty hit. And when V couldn't do a gig, we formed Parachute Club.
Now, why did you call it Parachute Club?
Somebody had seen us at the booze can we were playing at.
Yeah.
And somebody from the Toronto Film Festival, and they said, we'd love you to play the Toronto Film Festival party.
Yes.
This was back in '82. And we said, okay. And then they called us up and they said, it was Barbara Herschenhorn. And she said, you have to have a name for the band. So we happened to be rehearsing at that point. And Laurie Conger had a postcard that was this monkey parachuting into a African graveyard, right? So Billy said, what about Drummer Monkey? Because, you know, it was all about the grooves, right? Yeah. And then we kind of threw around a whole bunch of names. What about Parachute? And then it became, what about the Parachute Club?
Isn't
so
that
came
crazy?
Out of a postcard, really.
Wow. Well, you see, I've always thought that Billy had rhythms like no other.
True enough. True enough.
That he understood global music, world music, if you will, long before anyone else.
True enough. In fact, you know, in one of the first press releases for Parachute Club, we called ourselves New World Music.
Really?
This was before the phrase world beat was even coined, because what we were doing was mixing all of the influences that we had, that he had, that I had, that Dave, you know, that all of us had. So it would have been African, Cuban, Latin, you know, reggae, funk, R&B, everything that we could muster was in that phrase. And Billy was at the forefront of that also. You know, even though he came from a blues background, he was one of the first people who was experimenting with all of these things. And of course, it was easy because we lived near Queen Street. There was a huge immigration population coming in from all over the Caribbean, and we were deeply influenced by that, made friends with the musicians and such.
Parachute Club had some incredible music.
Thank you.
I think of Alienation, I think of Boys Club. Lyrically, I think Boys Club is brilliant beyond imagination.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, Billy and I we wrote that at a bar in the middle of the afternoon. Really? It was a phrase we kept coining whenever we were talking about, you know, the business. And so we actually started writing that song in V and finished it in Parachute Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I was never aware of V.
V was really cool. V was before our very first gig. We had like 3 nights at the Cameron Public House.
And who was in V?
Moja from Truce and Rights, who's the lead singer and the writer there. So you had a Rasta, you had me, the feminist, you had Billy, right, and you had Terry Wilkins.
Okay.
Right, roots, real roots. So you had roots and blues, and you know, you had everything. And we were also a deeply political band as well.
Really?
Which preceded.
How did I know that? Without even knowing
because it's always, I mean, it's interesting. It began with Mama Kia, but then it just kept evolving in terms of, you know, we played benefits, we played, you know, issues, everything that was going on was of importance. We came out of we came out of the margins as artists and as people who were suffering from all manner of things.
Yes.
And then basically Parachute Club propelled us in a way into the mainstream.
Now, would you say that Parachute Club were political?
Yeah, I'd say we were political, but I'd say that we were also idealists. You know, I'd say, I mean, we used to get a lot of blowback on being, you know, trying to have message in our lyrics. But what we were trying to do was always take the problem and turn it into an optimistic view, like a celebration, like, look, if we just do that, then this can happen. Let's look at this situation so this can become that. And, you know, I think in particular around Boys Club is pretty much directed at you know, the Boys Club.
Of course.
However, Boys Club in its music is really satirical. If you see the video, it's very satirical. We dress up. It's comedic. It's almost like a cartoon, right? So we were always trying to torque it and make it either fun or, you know, celebratory or optimistic. And a Boys Club, oddly enough, I still play it, and it's so relevant now.
Yes, I still play it too, by the way.
I just can't believe how it's so relevant right now, right?
No, it's a very important song at NYthespirit.com. Very important. Rise Up.
Yeah.
How proud were you when Rise Up became the anthem for pride, world pride?
Well, yeah, by that point, that was really cool. That was really, really cool. And I have the funny story for me around Rise Up is that Rise Up was one of the last songs that we recorded for our debut LP.
Yeah.
And it was the song that I least liked.
Really?
Yeah, because, you know, it felt kind of like an Autobahn-y song. You know, it felt like Euro groove or something. Except for when Billy then laid his soca groove on it. And Danny arranged that song and gave it its sound. And then when I heard it on the radio and I saw how people were responding to it, I was like, wow, that's cool.
It still is, again, still is a very powerful song.
Yeah, I'm blown away by that.
How did you feel about the new mix that they did for Pride?
I felt there were places they could have went that were kind of more interesting. I felt there were there are a lot of things to have explored within that song, because we have never given that song away for remix, you know? And I'm blown away that it hasn't become a remix.
It could have gone a little further.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with
I would have loved that.
Now, I know that you're up to a lot of things these days, but before we get there, I have a quick... Do you remember you and I having lunch? I believe it was up at Hazelton, and this was back in the 80s. You and I had a little lunch, and you said to me, I'm not sure, I want to come out, but I'm not sure when and I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
And at that time I said, you'll know the right time.
I was afraid.
Yes. Well, we were all afraid then, weren't we?
Sure.
But I said to you, you'll know. And then several years later, in the 90s, I was a producer and writer for the Gay Games in Vancouver for the opening ceremonies, and you performed.
God, I forgot about that.
Yeah. And I believe your first or second song, you said, I'm one of you.
Oh, did I really?
Yes. And I thought she found her moment.
Oh, that's so interesting.
The crowd went crazy.
Did they really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, I can't believe I
the stadium was full, like 30,000 people.
Because I felt like in so many ways that I didn't really fully, I mean, totally embody my coming out until about 7 years ago.
Oh, really?
You know, because it was easy for me to be political, easy for me to stand up for, you know, gay, lesbian, and queer rights, transgender rights. It was easy to stand up for the community. But it wasn't easy because I'm a deeply private person to actually say, this is who I am.
I fully understand.
Right? And I also felt like I never had my K.D. Lang moment where I went, I'm out and I'm here. You know, I think maybe in saying it in Vancouver, I thought, well, nobody will notice.
Nobody will notice. I'm one of you means not too much.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, currently you are artist in residence.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, I am the inaugural artist in residence
you're the first.
At Regent Park. And what that really means is that this is the first time that a developer who's revitalizing an area has stated formally that arts and culture are key to promoting community, keeping community, and nurturing community.
And the developer is?
The developer is the Daniels Corporation.
Okay, they deserve recognition.
They do, because they're doing amazing things. In fact, they're building a thing down at the waterfront in Toronto called the City of the Arts.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
So, yeah, so they're very forward-thinking people, and what they wanted me to do was to kind of, you know, I sort of landed in there to be the ambassador in a way for the area, to promote the culture that's already there, to see if it's possible to do projects where I can bring the artists that are there into my projects, or to collaborate if that looks like it works.
Yes.
To really listen and to look and see what is needed, to see if it's possible to keep an artist in residency program in an area, right? So I'm the template.
Well, it's exceptional.
I'm really excited. It's the perfect
exceptional.
thing. Yeah.
Are you having fun? You've only, what, 3 or 4 months now?
I have another 6 months to go.
Okay.
And what I've been doing is I have a series of, there was one project called Wild Women Don't Get the Blues, where I promote emerging and established talent, you know, from all of the city, but I always have someone there from Regent Park. And every time I've done it, they've blown the audience away, the emerging
Really?
talent part.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm having a blast because I'm at this stage where I get to say to people, oh, you have to know who this person is.
Yes.
This person is amazing. And it doesn't matter what their age is, you know, old or young. They're awesome and you need to know about that. And I love that at this place.
It's kind of like being a freeform DJ. It's the experience of sharing with others what you've found or what you've heard or what you've seen.
Yeah.
And it's a magnificent experience. I live for it.
Yeah,
and I can see you do too.
I do, because now I get to, in a way, it's a different way of being a mentor.
Yes.
Without being a mentor.
Yes,
it's about me connecting people, and I've always loved connecting this to that. You know?
And you've got a doc coming?
We have the director Shelley Saywell and myself co-conceived of a project called Lowdown Tracks, and it's a documentary that's going to be premiering in Hot Docs April 25th, and there's 3 screenings of it, and we're totally excited because we've spent the last 2.5 years following around these really interesting characters who are, shelter challenged, who are on the street quite a bit. And we're looking to reframe the way people see homeless people.
You know, I often think there is only a pane of glass that separates those who have a home from those who don't.
This is precisely why I did this. You know, I myself have had a lifelong fear of being homeless. And I think part of it was that when I was younger, I was so transitory, moving from place to place. And then as, when I was touring, that really solidified my wayfarer status, right? And then I'd always realized that you're always a step away from falling in the cracks.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely, particularly when you're an artist.
Yeah.
If you were a lawyer, maybe not.
Yeah.
But then you can be a lawyer and fall into the crack very quickly also.
Well, even actually, I met a lot of people on the street who actually came from very established careers, and then things happened, you know, sickness, divorce,
That's what I mean.
health, like any number of things could spin you into...
Take you down.
Yeah, so gratitude.
And are you doing any live performances these days?
Yeah, I'm building that piece up because the next big project to coincide with this record is that I've been writing this one-woman show for the last 6 years. And I create the music that I wrote for this latest CD actually came out of this experience of writing this autobiography. So I plan on touring the play more than, you know. I do sporadic things. Yeah, I do things when people ask me. But the actual real tour piece of it is going to be in the period of time, probably starting in the fall, where I start to ramp up workshop pieces of the play with the music, you know, and culminating in a larger production probably next year, early next year.
You know, the fear that most of us live with, particularly those who are artists, that you may end up on the other side of the glass, may in fact be what drives us to get things done.
Yeah, I always think, especially these days, I think, how many projects do I need to have under my belt before I feel like I've actually accomplished something? And I feel like I'm just beginning.
You know, this is the best part of the interview for me because I get to come in and give you a hug.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Are you in love with anyone else besides me?
Yes, yes, I have partnership in my life.
Oh, you're a lucky one. Thank you, Lorraine Segato.
Joey roams the streets So young and already knows defeat, looking for some comfort from the scorching heat, some kind of hole in the wall. Mary looks for love, something more than what a tiny world's made of. She's got a breaker's expectations aren't enough, some kind of hole in the wall.
This hole in the wall.
Everyone needs a place, a comfort from the storms that come our way, a magical hideaway, refuge from the tensions of the fall. A hole in the wall. Everywhere we go, there are mysteries